Good evening to you and welcome to our Facebook Live this evening. My name is Jenny McCormack and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I'm based in Brackley, which is in Northamptonshire, which is in the UK. So if you are joining me live, thank you and good evening from us here in the UK. If you're joining on catch up or on YouTube and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to add any comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer those at a later stage. I do check them on a regular basis, but obviously if you have any questions and you're watching live, then you're most welcome to answer them as we go along. Okay, I'm just getting everybody up here on my screen and then we can get started. So we have been using the hand penned stamp set. So far we used it on Friday, over the weekend, and today, and yesterday even. Oh dear, it's only Tuesday, isn't it? And I thought I'd do a little bit of watercolour today. So I haven't done any watercolouring for quite a while. Oh, thank you, Carol. My volume is low because my microphone is on the floor. That's the cat that knocked the microphone over. So hi Wendy, nice to have you join us. Haven't seen you for a little while. I hope you're well. Hi Sam, hi Karen and Carol. So yes, thank you for your nice comments to let me know that you are indeed here. Thank you. I'd forgotten he'd knocked it off earlier on. So just to remind myself about watercolouring, and what we're going to do today is use watercolour paper. Hi Jeanette. Which is a nice thick paper, absorbs the water really nicely without it then buckling, which you can't do, for example, on basic white. And in order to do the watercolouring, I'm going to be using our Stampin' Up Refills. So these are the ink refills that you would use typically for topping up any of our standard classic stamping pads. You can get them for the other pads as well. And basically what I've done is I've got a little colour palette here. I was having a play earlier, and because I was using the ink refills, the brightness of the colour is really strong. You can water it down, so the more water you add to the ink refill, the lighter and more dilute it becomes. Oh, thanks Wendy, I'm glad everything's good for you. So here I've used Flirty Flamingo and a little bit of Daffodil Delight. And for this card this evening, I'm actually going to be using purple. So I've got Gorgeous Grape, and I'm planning to water that down to use a dark and a light purple. If I can't water it down enough, I'll use some of our excuse me, Highland Heather ink, and I'm just going to pop it into a pot. You could use a saucer or anything. You could also use the ink pad itself by really pressing on the back case of the ink pad and then opening it up, and there will be a little pool of ink there. This is quite a dry ink pad, which is why there's nothing there. With our new style ink pads, they're actually quite difficult to do because there's more of a gap between the two layers. So I prefer this method. You could also take your ink pad, hi Kate, and press it onto your block, and then use that as your palette as well. So there's lots of different ways you can do depending on what you have at home and just use the best combination. You could also use watercolour pencils and scribble into here, and we also have our new pastels which arrived today, which I'm very excited to be using at some point soon. So this was my test version, which I'm really pleased the way it came out, and I'll make another card out of that. So all I've done for this card this evening is I've just stamped that main image. I've just done it actually 4 times because my plan is actually to cut this layer out, and what I will do with this one is either use the majority of this, or I'll cut out a middle section and then use this remaining piece as a frame. So I might get round to doing that on a separate occasion. I have prepared a couple of layers of card. So I've got Gorgeous Grape and Highland Heather, and then this layer, when I cut it down, is going to sit on top of that. Now I've got a couple of hints and tips for you for doing this. The first thing is make sure that your surface is clear, and ideally have some scrap paper underneath. So this is an old piece of my grid paper, and I'm just going to put this under. Now this won't really soak through because our watercolour paper is really thick and strong. It's more likely if you've got an open water brush or anything that you're going to get ink, or if you're squeezing it you'll get water over the surface. So that's the key thing really, is to have yourself plenty of space. I will be using our new water painters. These come in a pack of 3 and they have 3 different nibs. So I'm going to tell you why this one is green in a minute. So you have a large nib, which is this one here, and that's great for colouring a whole area over a background. Just going to fold that in. And then we have a medium nib, as you can see here, and then a fine nib. Now I've been meaning to order another pack, but so in the meantime I'm going to use one of our old aqua painters, and these came as a pack of 2 with, this is the large nib, and then it came with a fine nib as well. And there's lots of different techniques for watercolouring. I am by no means, absolutely no means, a watercolour artist. I have purchased a class in a box to teach me how to watercolour, but I haven't got round to it yet, which is really bad. But I will. One of these days I will definitely get there. Okay, so let us see where we go from here. So I'm just going to start with my water brush, and what I'm going to do is just squeeze this. Just going to get an empty one. Okay, now you can see this has got a little bit, well, you might be able to see a little bit of a yellow tint, and that's because yellow was the last colour I used. So the other thing you want to have to hand is a piece of cloth. I prefer to use cloth rather than kitchen roll, because if you use kitchen roll, again, that gets soggy. You leave it on the side, and if you're not careful then you dampen the cards. So this is like a muslin cloth. So I'm just going to squeeze this to get this to a clear, or a clearer at least, bit of water. What I'm going to do is wet the flowers to start with. So just with a clear paintbrush. Now I've stamped these in StazOn. So this is StazOn Jet Black. It's a permanent ink and it's waterproof. I don't know if you can see. Not quite sure how the light, oh, you can just see that. So I want to get these flowers quite wet, because the wetter they are, the easier it is to add the water and the ink. Okay, is that volume okay? Making sure I haven't turned any knobs or anything in the meantime. Okay. Now I'm going to add some of my gorgeous grape to one of these. And literally, I'm going to put two and a bit drops. Okay, that is all I'll need, unless you're doing a you know, a very large area, of course. Oh, good, thank you, Karen. And you can see how deep this colour is. It's a beautiful purple. Tracy will be happy. Okay, so if you want to dilute this down, just take your brush into another little area of your tray and you can add a little bit more water. I'm just using this pen actually, perhaps that won't do that. I don't want to go mad. I'm just going to use my little jug actually and add a tiny little bit of water. Woo! That's not very tiny, is it? Okay, but it's fine because I want it really dilute. Like so, you can see the colour depth of that. Now, all I need to do is just then drop that ink onto my wet flower. Now, it has obviously dried a little bit while I've been chattering. Okay, but it's really quick to watercolour this way. So this is a little bit dry, but it will get wet as I do it. Okay. So I'm going to do those like that. Okay, now once you've got the colour down, you can use the moisture in here to wet the other flowers. In fact, you can see how much ink is still in there, but it's a little bit drier. So I can just drop in a bit more ink and it will just seep into the other areas like so. So if you want to make this a bit darker, just add a little bit more colour. Now if you wanted multiple colours, what you would need to do is allow that to dry in between, or you could use a heat tool to help that dry. Just going to use this aqua painter here with some water to wet this flower. I appreciate you can't really see the water on there. Oh, maybe you can now. So there's the water on there. See that or not? Don't want to tip it too much or it'll disappear. It'll all bleed out. So now I can just add this ink wherever I want to that. And if you want to add a little bit more of the colour, just go into the more detailed ink and spread that over like so. Now if you think you've got it too wet or you've got too much colour, what you can do is just take your cloth and literally lift out the water and the colour, and you can see that's gone from a dark colour to a lighter one. Let me find, there we go. So it's a really easy technique. What I say is you do need to have the wetter this paper is where you're going to add your ink, the better. So I'm just going to dip that into there, and the ink just sort of finds its way like so. Gives a really pretty soft effect. Let's do, I know this is probably going to be off the end. Let's just add in a little bit here. Like so. And obviously it does take a little while to soak into the card, so bear that in mind. Just going to add this little bit in here, like so. So much quicker than using blends pens if you like the watercoloured look. Thank you, Wendy. I'm glad it's relaxing. So I wasn't going to do all purple, but I wonder if I might introduce a little bit of pink in a minute. So what I'm going to do, let's do this flower here. So I'm going to show you the leaves, because I've got two techniques for doing that. Let's do this one and this one. As I say, if you think it's too wet, just absorb a little bit with your cloth. Thank you, Karen. There we go, and then this one here, like so. Okay, so I will choose a different colour in a minute, I think, for the other flowers, rather than all being the same. Or I could just water it right down, but maybe I will add in a pink or another colour if you've got another suggestion. Let's just add a little bit more in here, and I think I'm going to add a little bit more back to this one. So you can go back in. That's the good thing about watercolour. You can go back in and add to it. And I'm only doing it literally by scribbling it. You know, I'm not painting it. I'm literally scribbling it on, like so. So you get a really pretty effect. Oops. Yeah. Don't let your pen roll across there. Just going to dry this off a little bit. Pick up a little bit of that. There we go. So this is where you want something underneath your work surface. So when it comes to the leaves, Daffodil Delight, yes, also saffron. Definitely, I think this is definitely Daffodil Delight, so I might try some of that. So to clean your brush off, you can use a jug of water. Mine's just out of your picture. And then just squeeze. You see how much ink is still in there. Just squeeze that until it runs clean. You can run this underneath the tap if you want. You can take the top off and run it through the tap. I'm just going to rinse it out a couple of times in here. Obviously, if you've got a bunch of water brushes or aqua painters, or even just paint brushes, then you'll have to do less changing over. So in order to do the greenery, you could do exactly the same thing. So use a water brush or paintbrush to wet your leaves, and then add in some green ink and paint with that. Now, because most of my watercolour that I do is florals, what I've done is I've got one of the water painters, and I've added the ink refill straight into the barrel and added water, so that it's always ready to do leaves. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit here, so you can see how vibrant that is. That's probably only 2 or 3 drops in the barrel. So exactly the same thing. You can wet the leaves first. Now, in order to stop the water moving across here, make sure that your previous flower is dry, or you're not making a connection between the two. So this is a little bit close, but let's give it a go. So then what I can do is just use this, just going to squeeze a little bit of that out, a little bit of water, to brush in the colour straight away. Okay, so for me it makes sense to keep one green, and this one's been going since the aqua painters came out, so was that last year even, or was it in the January to June? I can't remember. Anyway, so, and I just leave it like that. I keep it upright like that so that the water's not up through the nib. You could empty the top and clean it out and just leave the barrel with the ink in if you wanted to. So I just need to get this flowing a bit better. That's it. So you can literally just paint it in. So if you want the full-blown effect, let me just add a little bit of water here and here. Yeah, I said a little bit. There we go. And then you can just fill that in. Like so. Obviously you can add more colour, and you could pick up additional green from here if you wanted to. So a little bit carried away with that, but it's amazing the effect and texture you can get using the ink refills. Just going to turn this around because I don't want to put my elbow in this large piece here. So I'm just going to do the same and quickly do these. Any other choice of colours to go with this? Daffodil Delight, So Saffron was the recommendations. Like so. Just going to scribble these in even without wetting them. So if you're not a fan of using blends pens, then this is quite a good way of adding quite a bit of colour in a small amount of time. There we go. I keep seeing a message that Tracy, I haven't got the refills, Wendy, for the new colours, otherwise that's exactly what I would have done. They're on my next orders, and for ladies in the In Colour Club that wanted the refills as well. Otherwise, yes, it would have been perfect. Okay, so I think I've got all of my leaves there. So you can see how vibrant this colour is. You tend to think of watercolour as being it can be quite muted. But as you can see from here and here, it's really vibrant. Okay, so just pop that lid on there, keep that ready for next time. And then I'm just going to add some other colour. So should we go with, I've got some Daffodil Delight here. just going to make sure I keep away from the damp leaves. So the ink will only go where the water is, unless obviously you know, squeeze it too hard and it goes everywhere. Like so. Pretty. I do find it easier with a little palette, but as I say, an old saucer or a plastic lid or something would work just as well. Like so. There we go. As I say, you can vary the intensity by varying the amount of ink refill that you use. Thanks, Wendy. So after this live this evening, we do have a team meeting. So I have a lovely team of demonstrators that have joined us over the last, it'll be 11 years soon. And we have a regular monthly team meeting. And so if anybody's interested in joining and is in the UK, you're welcome to join us for any of our team meetings to see what we get up to. We have a mystery stamping. Oh, bless you, Kate. I'll show you actually. Bless you. Yes, can't be trusted. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry for a second. My 11-year anniversary is on the 2nd of July 2021. What was I going to say? Oh yes, so we have a team meeting tonight and we have a mystery stamping event. And so one of our team members devises a list of instructions, and we all sit and craft along together and see what we all end up with. Sometimes they're very similar, sometimes they're quite different. Just going to put this water away. Hopefully nowhere near the cat. Okay, so while that dries, I'm just going to show you how to get StazOn off your ink pad. So this is, as you can see, a photopolymer ink pad. So when you ink it up with StazOn, it does create a really nice line that you can see where it's going to stamp. Whereas when photopolymer stamps come to you to start with, you can't see. Okay, so I've just stamped that off to get rid of the worst of it. The best thing to use is StazOn cleaner. Make sure with your ink pad, it does have a little plastic lid, and I attach the plastic lid to the top here so it doesn't ping off. Just make sure that as soon as you've finished with it, you cover it up so you don't put your hand in it. And then I like to use StazOn cleaner. Just going to move this one out of the way. And you can use this on your photopolymer stamps. Just make sure that you're cleaning it off after, because this is a solvent based product. You can see where it's dissolving the ink, like so. So I'm just tapping that. And then you can use a chamois, or you can use one of your wipes here, and you can see it's gone from black to the original pinky colour that it was, like so. And then what I would do with that is, just to make sure it's clean, is either use a chamois on it, like so, or just run it under the tap, and then it's back to normal again. So there was a lot of talk about not using StazOn on these photopolymer stamps. You can use it, but just make sure you clean it off. So I'm using our old StazOn cleaner. This is a good age. I think this was the original. No, it was the second bottle I bought. And that will get that nice and clean. The secret is to make sure that you clean the cleaner off afterwards. That's okay, Kate. Right, let's have a look. See if this is dry or nearly dry. It's nearly dry. So obviously the wetter this is, the longer that will take to dry. And I would recommend either leaving it or using a heat tool to dry it. Depends on how many you've got to make. I'm just going to use a clean part of this. Just want to dry it on there. There we go. It's not going to be 100% dry, but it will be dry enough for our purposes. So what I was planning to do is taking our Highland Heather, and then we've got Gorgeous Grape, and then I'm going to cut this down, and I'm going to use my current favourite die, which is from here, and this is called Scalloped Dies. It's got this lovely big scallop as well. Cuts out 2 flower images from the same matching stamp set, and then it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layering scallop dies. This is the one that I've used here on one I made up after our live on Thursday. Yeah, after the live on Thursday, because it's got this really fine stitching and a nice scallop. So my plan is to decide which bit of this I'm going to cut out. Okay, and as I said, what I'm going to do with the other one, hi Kim, is to use the outside as a frame as well. So you can just use this frame to get an idea of what you want to cut. And it will just about fit in there. It's a little bit tight on the edges. So you could even do it at an angle, look. Might do it at an angle. I'll cut that out and layer that up. Or shall I do it like that? Difficult decisions. Oh, that works quite nicely too, doesn't it? Okay, just going to run that through the die cutting machine. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on there just to hold it in place. As I said, what I'm going to do with the other one, which I can show you, is cut this out and then cut the outside layer into a frame. So bear with me while I cut this out. Just need to find the layers because I was embossing yesterday. So let me retrieve my 3 layers. So I hope everybody's having a good, productive day today. I think everybody's working out what they can and they can't do next week. Right. So just going to whiz that through. Like so. There we go. Makes an interesting border in its own right, doesn't it? Okay, so I do like this magic tape because it doesn't tear the paper underneath. There we go. So pretty, isn't it? Okay. So what I might do is I could put this layer through the next embossing, the next die cut layer. Do you want to see that one? This is the one with the little edges that you can wrap the ribbon through. Shall we be daring? I think it's just going to fit. Let's see. Might be slightly off the edge, but yeah, it will be perfect. Okay, so this one die cuts this beautiful pattern around the edge, and this one can go on top like so, so it fits in there perfectly. Now what I like about this scalloped edge is that you can pop some ribbon through, because it threads through here perfectly, whether it's at an angle or crossways or even at a diagonal like that. Let me just see if I've got some enough of some gorgeous grape ribbon. Oh. So I have, bizarrely, I have this little offcut here. Yeah, the dies are, but I think you can get away with it. So this is a UK size card. So American cards are slightly wider and slightly shorter than ours. But I think you can either space it high or just centrally, or you could cut your card down if it really annoyed you. So just to show you how you can thread this through really easily. I don't know whether I'll keep this ribbon on there. Obviously we've got the new ribbons. You could also use the Granny Apple Green for this, couldn't you? Which is the colour of the ink I used for the leaves. So really easy to layer that up, and then you could just literally turn this into a bow. Now you may not want this in the middle. I'm just going to do it to see what it looks like. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, just making sure it was straight. So I'm just going to try a bow. If it doesn't look all right, I can move it round or take it off. What's genius? Putting the ribbon through. Honestly, it's not. I promise. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could add that ribbon. So either through the middle, in this case, like that. Let me just trim the edges, see whether I'll leave it on there or not. Oh, with the ribbon, bless you. I didn't think it was that genius. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's have thought of that. So there we go. You could also have this further down if you wanted to, which I think I did on one of my other cards here. So this is one that I stamped and used the blends pens on, and I put this ribbon further down so it splits between here and the sentiment. So you could do that. I'm not sure whether to leave that in there or not, whether it looks too busy. Let's have a look at it this way round. What do you think? I can't quite decide. So the question is, where would I put my sentiment now? Or I could just leave it plain. I could move this one down, so effectively you've got it like that. Might be better. With the ribbon, second way around looks better. This one, like that. Prefer it without. So I've got a couple with, couple without. Of course, there'd be nothing to stop you moving this further over and have it in landscape instead if you wanted to. Wendy says she'd leave the ribbon off. Oh dear. Without. Okay, I'm going without, folks. But just to show you, that is what you can do with these. And obviously you can thread them through here the other way as well, so have it across the front, tucking down. Oh, quite a dissension in the ranks here, with or without. Okay, I'm going to leave it without for the minute because I've got one with here. Obviously, if there's a natural split, I don't think it works particularly well split in the middle. So if I did that again, I could cut it with a gap further down like I've got on here. So I could put a sentiment in the middle. What I'm going to do is just layer this, and I'm going to layer this flat because it is watercolour paper. And it doesn't matter what glue you use, but you do want to use a reasonable amount to stop it curling up after it's dried. Now this isn't quite dry, but it's dry enough for my purpose. So there we are. Now if you wanted to avoid too much colouring in, you could measure this before you did your stamping, because obviously I've got my outside layer here, okay, that effectively I'm wasting, although you could use that as a frame, but I just wanted to start with that and see where I ended up. I'm going to pop that on there. I'm just going to use Seal again. This is actually Seal Plus, the stronger one, only because that's the only one I happen to have to hand. So just positioning this in the middle. As Wendy says, it is actually American size things, but I think you can get away with that really. Just fold that over and score that, and then I'll see what I can do about a sentiment. So I can either stamp it in there. Just wondering if I could use part of this as a little tag, but I don't really want to do too much over there. Let me just see. I think I've got maybe from the Blossom in Bloom just a straightforward sentiment to go in there. So I've got a nice thank you in there, or get well soon. Let's see what will fit. I think that works. I'll get well soon. Yes, it's not far off, and I can see actually I haven't even got that straight. So this is a better indicator of size actually, because I've got another layer in between. Wendy. Oh, hi Carol. So I'm going to just do my get well soon. And you could heat emboss this. This would be particularly effective. I don't want to use stays on for that, so I'm going to try my Gorgeous Grape. And just pop that in the middle. I don't know how much ink I've got on here. Let's have a look and see. That's fine. So I do lots of light tapping because I know that my ink pads are quite light. If you have a new ink pad, then you can do less tapping. Okay, because I'm going on to watercolour paper, I'm just holding it down a bit longer, adding a little bit more pressure than I would normally. But there we have that. You can see that. And obviously, it goes without saying that we need a few little gems on there of some kind. I had my gems around here not 10 minutes ago. Let's see what I've got in here. Yes, and yeah, and also you're quite right, Carol, and also I've only got one flower on there, so there's plenty of space. Whereas obviously with the others I've got, it's a lot busier. You're quite right. So I'm just seeing what I've got. I really wanted the new gems, just not seeing any. So we could add some of these pastel pearls. What do you think? That might be too much actually. It is just so nice, and there's so much more I haven't done with it yet either. So it will be featuring for the whole of this week because we haven't really used the other dies, and there's the Memories of More cards to go with the set as well. I'm just going to use some plain rhinestones. I would normally pick out some grape ones, but this will do perfectly for now, like so. There we go. So I hope you like that design. So I started off with a watercolour piece of card stamped with stays on, and then I've used an assortment of water pens to colour it in. What I might see is if there's anything in there. I don't think I can get something out of there across the bottom. Look, let's just try that little strip of watercolour card. Waste not, want not. So I'm just going to cut this where that line is, like so. Oops, should have held it down. Never mind. Thank you, Kim. Whether that's a little bit too small, I don't know. Could have gone a bit bigger, but we can just put that across the bottom, or on your envelope it could go. Just add a little bit of glue. But obviously you could use the frame as well for something else. Thank you, Kate. Let's just trim this. Fairly straight. there. Fold that over and trim it off from the back here. There we have it. I think that would cheer anybody up, don't you? There we go. Oh, that's moved. That's me cutting it before it was really stuck. Just trim that little bit. There we go. So I hope you like my little bit of watercolouring. So my top tip, if you'd like to do a lot of watercolouring of florals, is keep one of your water brushes, aqua painters, with some green ink in. You can then dilute it or add to it. So this is Granny Apple Green, and this will last well. I did just top it up with some water today, but no more ink, so that will last you a long time. And the one I did earlier, if I can find it. Here it is. So this was just my practice, just to remind me how I do watercolour things, as it's been a little while. So what I'm going to do with this one is I won't finish it now, but I will use a couple of layers maybe of rectangles. So using our rectangle stitched framelits. And what I will do is, if you look at the size of a card, oh thanks Jeanette, so this is a typical layer for a card. So what I'm going to do is I will put one layer like that, and then one layer maybe, whoops, like so. Gosh. So I'll cut one layer like that, and then I'll add this layer in, so that I end up with this as a frame, and this middle piece can go onto another card. Okay, so there's lots of things you can do with that when you start with a larger piece. So I will do that later and show you the finished result. Probably put that onto, this is Flirty Flamingo, so I might pop it onto a Flirty Flamingo card base. So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to whiz off for our team meeting. If anybody, as I say, is interested in joining, then you're welcome to join us for part of the team meeting. Just make a pop a comment below, and I can send you the link to join us for. You can just pop in for 5 minutes if you want. Okay, so thank you ladies and gents for watching. Thanks for your lovely comments. Glad you like my watercolouring session today. So I will be back tomorrow, and that will be at 10 AM, and I'm going to be using these die cuts here like so, and I'm going to be cutting them out and then infilling them with different colours to get a completely different effect. Oh, thank you Karen, that's very sweet of you. Wendy's off to create. That's what we like, a thing. Of course Carol, I can send you an email, no trouble at all. I'll see you all shortly if you're in my team, ladies, and I'll catch up with you ladies if you're able to sit with me tomorrow. I shall be here at 10 AM UK time, and that is on Wednesday the 12th. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely evening or night or day, depending on where you are in the world while you're watching me. And if you're watching this on catch up, have a great time wherever you are. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Look after yourselves and your loved ones, and I hope you can keep crafting. Bye for now.